Hi, I'm Randy Hollenbeck, and this is the Music Roundtable. Today on the show, we have Stephen Blake from the pop rock band Animal Sun.
Hey, thank you for having me, Randy.
I'm fucking on my words, it's so depressing that it has to want you. My heart is taking beatings, I'm tired of retreating from the truth. Is there a way that I can get you to dance? And would you stay and take me up on a chance? And she said, oh babe, you lost your head. You know, I never wanted to be more than your friend. And she said, I never wanted to be more than your friend. And she said,
I just wanted to dig into some of your history, how you got started playing music, what age, and some of your influences.
So, started playing music with my brother. He was playing drums, and I was playing guitar. Probably around the age of 12, turning 13, like that summer. So I think it was 2007. My dad had tried to get me into playing guitar when I was 10. Just never wanted to do it. Just wanted to play outside. And I don't remember what flipped in me when I turned 12. But I think it became more of like a brother bond type of thing, where like we would kind of go upstairs to the room. My mom was a drummer, dad was a guitar player, so we got it from our parents for sure. And at that time period, we were listening to, I think, All American Rejects was like huge when when that was going on. So I remember seeing like the Move Along like music video when I was like on like a family trip in Phoenix or something. We're from Virginia, so it was pretty far a long way from home, and I was like, "Ooh, I want to do that." So my brother and I started playing, and then that's when we really got into like '90s, like Smashing Pumpkins and early Foo Fighters and that type of stuff. I guess Nirvana too. And but it was really the Pumpkins I think influenced us the most. That's like all we listened to through early like high school and late middle school, and um, yeah, it was all fun and games in the beginning. It didn't really turn super serious until 2011. So like 4 years later, like we had a couple of open mic night gigs and embarrassed ourselves at a couple of wineries, and we were playing all original music. That was the thing. It's like I was writing. That was always been my strong suit, was songwriting. It wasn't so much like I wasn't the best singer or the best guitar player. I worked on singing a lot, so I got proficient at that like in the past like 4 or 5 years. But before then, I was not natural at it. When our best friend James, who passed away in 2011, that's when music became like the only thing that we were going to do. Like there was no other plan B. There was no other option. So we're going to do this. We're going to make it. We don't care if it takes 20 years. We're going to do it. It started out as like more of a friendly brotherly bond thing, and then I think tragedy really kind of like forced us to elevate it to the next level.
You were saying Smashing Pumpkins is one of your influences. What are some of your other ones?
I got really big into Silver Sun pickups in college. So it was like I went through a Foo Fighters phase. So speaking of which, I sat next to Dave Grohl like a month ago. He was like at a restaurant in Venice, and we're probably 15 feet away from each other for about 35 minutes. And he was having dinner with his fam, and I just didn't know what to say, so I didn't say shit. I just let that happen. I almost said like, "Hey, I like the new album," um, but I didn't want to be fake about it, so I just sat next to him and let him live his life. So went from Foo Fighters, Smashing Pumpkins to Silver Sun Pickups for 4 years, and then that's when things started getting like really mixed all over the place. I was obsessed with like a Radiohead was another huge one. I was obsessed with Radiohead in high school. Foo Fighters, Pumpkins, Radiohead, and Silver Sun Pickups. And then I was like, okay, now it's time to like stop focusing on one band and listen to a crap ton. And when I was growing up, that my mom would play stuff for me like the Jimmy Eat World record, like Clarity and stuff. And then I started venturing into like the more synth pop realm, like listening to bands like 1975, The Killers, Floor. I even got into more classic, modern alt rock bands like Catfish and the Bottlemen and a couple of bands. I mean, even 21 Pilots. I mean, it went from like I'm gonna focus on like this one band, become obsessed with it, to I'm gonna pull from like all these different genres that all kind of dance around the pop realm, but they're like offshoots, like whether it be synth or alt or rock, all kind of fall in that alternative realm, right? And I'd say the five biggest influences for Animal Farm, especially in this last record, were the Killers for sure, 1975. Nothing But Thieves was a huge band for me that I found in 2016, and I kind of watched them grow. I mean, they were playing probably a 150 capacity club when I saw them, and now they're playing like, I mean, over in the UK, they're playing like 15,000 seaters. Here, they're playing like 2,000, or maybe 1,500. So my point is, like, it was those three bands. Then I don't know how, but they found me, I found that band through our fans. When Girl in Blue started getting attention and getting a lot of radio play and a lot of streams, people kept comparing it to this band called IDK How. I was like, who the hell is that? So I went and looked at them. They really helped influence this record, right? Those four, and then the last band I would say that really influenced this album would probably be the band Camino. I really liked their album Try Hard that came out in 2019. So we did most of this album during COVID. Like, it was like those five bands: Killers, Nothing But Thieves, 1975, IDC How, and Band Camino. Like those five bands, I think really helped shape this record for me at least. And it was all during COVID. It was like we started making this in July 2020. I think like early July, right when I got back from a vacation home to Virginia. And we just said, okay, we're gonna lock ourselves in a room for 4 or 5 months and put out 8 of the best songs we possibly could. I mean, we demoed out like 12, but for whatever reason, this album just always made more sense. It's like short, concise. Like we didn't want there to be a single track that people would be like, oh, that's not as strong as the others. Like we didn't want any filler. We're like, we're gonna put our 8 best, almost singles. Almost all of them were singles, and kind of like make it really, themed out, focus more on world building, and pulled from these bands, that were putting out albums like Moral Panic by Nothing But Thieves came out right when we were finishing up the masters of the first round of the first 6 songs. And I think, those influences, you can hear like little flecks of, what was coming out last year, but also like, at the same time, we do try to be original. So we're trying to put like a new spin on it and not just do what's been done over and over and over again.
Now, you guys were in Virginia, you and your brother. How did the band form from your open mic gigs to what is Animal Sun now?
Trial and error. I mean, I still struggle with this for like, we have some songs online like Still Believe and Victory Song and Without You that we kind of just threw out. I don't particularly like those songs. I don't think they represent the band, and that's kind of why we took Beginnings offline, because like we were always surrounded by people that was saying you should sound like this or look like this or talk like this, right? And that Echoes of a Dream was us saying, hey, we're really going to take a step back from this and just put out exactly what we want to look, sound, and be like. And we're going to stop listening to all these stupid A&Rs or, people that think they're, high up in the management world, and just do what we want to do. And Girl in Blue was kind of the foundation for that. You know what I mean? Like, people told me Without You was a stronger song, and that we needed to sound, more of like, I don't know, maybe like Passion Pit did when it first came out, like 12 years ago. And, it wasn't us. It wasn't working. Like Echoes of a Dream is kind of like the first real introduction to Animal Sun. It's like you had Girl in Blue, got our toe in the door, boom, here's what we sound and look like. And we've already started working on the next record, which we're basically taking what we did and pushing a little bit darker, a little bit rocker, a little bit more heavier, but we're still doing the exact same sound now that we found it. So like I said, it started with trial and error. We would just kind of throw songs out there, and we kept getting misled by the wrong people. We just make mistake after mistake. But the thing is, like, mistakes are learning, opportunities to learn. So if you take those mistakes and you see, okay, this is what worked and this is what didn't, and you keep climbing off of mistakes. Eventually, it'll be impossible to make mistakes because you've already made them all to climb up to where you were. So, I think that's why Echoes of a Dream is as complete as it is because we would kind of just try everything. Right? We would do everything. We would open for anyone. We would drive to like skate parks in the middle of nowhere and open for bands that had like 10 people there that were like touring through the area. And eventually got to the point, we were playing for, a couple hundred people every night in Virginia, but like wasn't like going anywhere. It was just like, hey, here's a local hometown hero band, right? So we're like, okay, we got to move to LA. We're going to do this full time. And, we still have to have part time jobs, right? But I think, you know, we're spending a good 50, 60% of our time now doing music where it used to be like, you know, 20%, 15%. And it's taken over our lives. It's the main thing that we do. Um, and I think that's okay. I think people should normalize, touring musicians having, jobs when they're not on tour. Because, unless you're like a superstar, it's impossible, you know what I mean, to make it that way. But I think, we're hopeful. We had a lot of breakthroughs this year. Signed our first deal with Universal Music Group for a single. And, now we're hoping to get an album deal. Right. So it's like I said, it's just putting things out there. It's trying things, not being afraid to fail and keep learning from those mistakes. Just because you listen to the wrong person 2 or 3 times or 100 times doesn't mean you can't eventually find yourself. Because we started this band in 2014, and it took us 7 years to come out with an album or a body of work that we feel like represents us.
The Universal deal you signed, it was just for one song and not a whole album.
Yeah, it's just a single deal. Right now, it's pretty difficult with COVID. The industry is in the toilet right now. Even bands that are like very successful are broker than dirt because nobody can play shows, nobody can sell merch, which is where most of your money comes from, tickets and T-shirts, right? Streaming is not really, it doesn't really do much. We get like 300,000 plays a month, and I'm gonna tell you that doesn't equate to much. So, but I mean, the fans are out there. They're waiting. That's why we're so excited for this tour. Is like we've never been able to go to these cities and play to these people that have been listening to us. And you know, I think even though it is like our first tour, it is DIY, and there might be a couple of empty rooms. Even if we change just one person's life, that's enough for me. It's to keep going, and eventually we'll make it 10, 100,000, 2,000, 20,000. Right? You just keep going. You set goals for yourself, and every time you hit that goal, you set a new one. Right? So I said by the end of this year, I remember last year I made this goal for myself. We're going to sign a deal. We're going to go on tour. And we're going to hit 1 million plays. Okay. We're going on a national tour for a month. We have over 3 million plays, and we signed with a subsidiary of a major label. Right. So I hit all those goals, and now I'm going to set new ones. Okay. Album. Do this full time. No more part time hustles. And what's tour with a band that's like playing 2,000, 3,000 cap rooms, right? So that's what you got to do. Is every time you hit these goals, you just set new ones. You don't ever stop, and that's what keeps me going.
When I listened to your one or two of your songs on YouTube, I was like, okay, this is new and this is interesting because your sound is, I don't want to call it like, it sounds 80s style sounding, maybe with the keyboards and the bass sticking out so much, but it's different than everything that else is out there. The sound of it.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we try to pay homage to that, but then at the same time, like you'll hear songs like "Can You Hear the Thunder?" There's like a rock guitar, Royal Blood, and influenced or Muse influenced like breakdown in the middle of the song where it goes double time. Or you have a song like "Everywhere," which is like very reminiscent of some of the stuff Billie Eilish put out 2 years ago. Her debut records, right? So we're trying to walk this line between what's been done before and exploring new realms of it. Because I mean, I don't want to brag, but like we were writing, when pop punk was dead like 4 years ago, like we were writing songs that were very like pop punk influenced, and then that we stopped because we just didn't think it was us, or it wasn't working, and then 3 years later, here comes MGK. Pop punk is huge again, right? So I think this record, we did something similar with this. It seems to always be slightly ahead of its time, right? So we put Girl in Blue out 2 years ago, and it didn't blow up until this year, a few months ago, right? So like, and it's still growing. Like the streams are still going like every day, getting higher and higher. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like we always tend to write slightly ahead of the curve and trying to do new things with what's been done before, because at the end of the day, like everything has pretty much been done. You know what I mean? Like you're not gonna, there's not much you can do now that hasn't already been done. It's about how you make people feel fresh with it, right? As you described it. Like I recognize that 80s stuff, but it still feels fresh and it feels new, and that's because we're doing a lot of crossover stuff. We're doing a lot of stuff that the Pumpkins were doing in the 90s, and we're blending it with 80s synth pop radio sound, right? And so that feels fresh, it feels new, because a lot of people didn't listen to those old Pumpkin records like Siamese Dream or Gish, where you can really hear a lot of that melodic similarities in the guitar, but we're doing it on a keyboard or bass, you know.
Everyone you say, but I'll break from every move you make. I'll fake it when I can't relate to you. No wonder why I'm feeling down, 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 down. No wonder why I'm feeling down, 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 down.
You guys are getting ready to start up on this tour. When does it kick off?
This Friday. So we might leave Thursday night. I don't really know what's going on yet. I got to talk to a tour manager about that. But I think we're leaving Thursday night or Friday morning at like 4 a.m. We're just gonna get on the bus and pass out, and manager's just gonna drive, and we'll just be hanging out. First show's in Indianapolis, and second show is in Chicago. Pretty bummed we had to give up the New York date just due to COVID and all of the crazy booking world going on right now. You can't, like, we couldn't get a venue in time, so we have to. We haven't made the announcement yet, but we got to let the fans know that bought tickets in that area. They got to get a refund, which we will be issuing next week. So that's a huge bummer for me, honestly. New York. I've never been. I've been to bigger cities than New York, but I've never been to New York. Um, so I wanted to go there, but we leave on Friday, and still very excited to see Chicago, see Seattle again, Portland, Philly, a couple like Tampa. There's some cities in there that I want to see. So pretty stoked.
Now, how do you hook up with these bands that open up with you? Do you reach out to them and ask them if they want to do a tour, or how's that work?
We don't do any of that. We have a booking agent that handles all that stuff for us. We focus on the art, as it should be. For a while, we were doing it all ourselves, and then 2020, we were just like, you know what? Like, we're going to hire the right people to do this for us. And then, it kind of like, I don't want to say like, oh, just go hire people, because like we had to go through a lot of like people that weren't the right fit, before we got to the right fit. And, you're always evolving, always changing. I'm sure there'll be new people that come on this year or the year after. You know what I mean? If you every time you hit that check mark, you just set another one, right? And Billy Corgan said it best when Melancholy and Infinite Sadness hit number one. He said, "What's next?" You know what I mean? Like, after they hit number one, they said, "Okay, well now, like, what's after number one?" You know what I mean? You got to keep that mentality. And we were talking about this at band practice yesterday. We're like, the worst thing you can do is have a number one, because once you have a number one, it's all downhill from there. So you never want to be number one. You want to be number two or number three, because you have somewhere to go. And even if we do I hope we do have a number one album one day. And if we do, we'll put out one instead of going platinum, it'll go double platinum. I don't know. We'll keep going. I don't care if we're 40 years old.
You guys got some really cool videos, like Girl in Blue, and that's kind of, the video set up with the girl kind of like being obsessed with you and kind of like stalking you and then kidnapping you. how do you come up with the ideas for videos like that?
Collaborative, but I mean, a lot of it comes from inspiration from things like you and other stuff that's in pop culture. Like this new song I'm working on was inspired a lot by Mindhunter. So it's kind of what's in pop culture, but really we like to like make our videos metaphors for things. Girl in Blue was a metaphor for depression. Really, that's how it was. The whole thing is just a metaphor for mental illness. And growing up, like I struggled with a lot of things, and then was attracted to a lot of people that were going through similar things. And I would tend to date a lot of girls that had similar issues to me, that I had. I saw myself in them, and that's why we would usually like start talking or whatever. And I just, at one point, I'm like, I wanted to write something to let those people know that they're not alone, because I say that in the song or in the music video, like they feel all alone, they feel stuck, alone, helpless, blah blah blah, right? And it's just not true. Like so many millions and millions of people are exactly where you are and where I am. So like the song was to kind of bring awareness to that, and also kind of give them an anthem. Like take pride in it, own it. Like who gives a fuck? Like don't let yourself be judged. Let yourself just be you, and own that shit.
You had every word after that, and then touch. You had some of the same actors in there. Is that like a story you're trying to tell there?
Sort of, kind of. I wanted it to all be loosely tied together. So the album tells a story. Every track, the divide is the meeting of the two characters, red and blue, which is supposed to symbolize the head and the heart. Blue being the head, red being the heart, and even tried to put that like in their actions, like in every word. How red seems impulsive and passionate, and just kind of does things on impulse, right? Blue is more of like in her head, and but we didn't want to make them wanted to make them vessels. That's what we call them, red and blue. We wanted people to make them any gender, any sex, any race. Right? It was supposed to be like, instead of making them characters, supposed to be more like vessels. That's why we made them like almost like caricatures, because people could put themselves in their shoes, right? Because we know a lot of people are going through similar shit, right? So the idea was a toxic love story that ends up working out, because people are more than their mistakes. They're more than their past. They change, they grow, they evolve, they overcome. It's not just, oh, we're toxic for each other, let's break up and write a breakup song. It's been done a billion times, right? So we're like, okay, let's put a new spin on it, right? And that's the same message that's in the lyrics as in the music, right? So the video is all loosely tied together. Like, can you hear the thunder? If you watch it, at the end of it, there's like a little Easter egg. A girl in blue discovers the band, right? And then like it says, "I see you, blue," right? And then "Girl in Blue" happens, right? The next track on the record that has music videos, Girl in Blue, stalks me, kidnaps me. And then every word happens. She's blowing up my phone when I'm on a date with someone. And then touch happens. The band is camping and gets their freaking van stolen. And they happen to stumble upon the girl from the last video fighting Girl in Blue, right? And then more than the friend, the final music video we made for the record, like you see the two actors walk past a poster that says like wanted, and it's got the two girls from touching it, with the van, with missing, have you seen me, right? And so the same way that we tied the record together, we wanted the videos to tie together, just not as like obviously. And we wanted it to be kind of funny, kind of self-aware, because when you're an indie band with kind of a lower budget, you got to kind of own that shit. So that's why we put at the end, like, we don't have the 1975's money. We can't go there and, make a music video that looks like it should be playing at Hard Rock Cafe, right? So we had to kind of own it, make it funny, make it quirky, something that might blow up on TikTok, because we want people to look back on this in 10 years and go, oh, that was a little bit odd, but it works. Right. And that's why we had them listen to Girl in Blue at the end of More Than a Friend. She's like, oh my God, that's my favorite song. And like, that's the moment where she like suddenly like likes him, even though the whole time she was acting uninterested. And like, that kind of funny, self-aware thing. Like we had in every word, like depression fries, loves, like, what was it? Like no hope of cola, loves me not, like shake, that kind of shit. Like we would just put little funny, weird shit like that throughout all the videos, and all loosely connects,
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that idea that you got them all connecting and stuff. And I did notice some of the things in the videos. It weren't completely obvious, but I did see that wanted sign up on there on the pole. So yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, it wasn't completely obvious. So I said, we want to make you work for it a little bit.
How do you guys like sit down and write a song? Do you like come in with like a guitar riff, or do they does each of the members contribute something, or how does that work?
So the way that we write a song is kind of, it's collaborative. It's not something that it always starts with me and acoustic guitar usually. And I like to pull from others around me. Like More Than a Friend wasn't written about me. More Than a Friend, when I wrote it, I was at this party and there was this girl who liked me, but I didn't feel the same way. But at the same time, there was all these guys that liked her and were trying to get her attention, and she was blowing them off for me, who wasn't interested. And I found that whole situation like really funny and ironic and weird, just kind of like how people are. So I like, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I like ran in the other room, and like the melody came to me. And for whatever reason, like I was like, has anyone really written a song about like being stuck in the friend zone this hard? I mean, I feel like they have, but like for whatever reason, I hadn't heard of it. So I was like, you know what? Like this, in particular, really makes a lot of sense. And I think a lot of people can relate. So I just started making those lyrics at like 4 o'clock in the morning in 2018. And then all this stuff in Echoes of a Dream is just like life experiences of me and the band these past 3 years, just taking and we Frankenstein this album together. These songs weren't written in succession; they were kind of written throughout the years, and we kind of saw these reoccurring themes, and we're like, okay, this all ties together. We got to sandwich this shit together, and really theme it out so that it feels like almost like a story, right, or a book, right? So I came with all these lyrics, ideas, images, and we sat down in the studio during COVID, and I did a lot of it just me and the producer one on one, and then the guys came in and wrote the drum parts in a day. Bass was done in 6 hours. Adam came in and just, he's probably the most proficient musician I've ever seen. And I played with a lot of jazz people. He's just incredible. Um, I majored in it, so I would expect nothing less, right? Ty, sat one on one with Aaron, and did a lot of the keyboard stuff. And like I said, a lot of it was one on one, and then everybody kind of came in afterwards, like when we had the lyrics and the song structure laid out. That's when people would come in and write their parts and add their thing to it. And then by the end of it, it became like very collaborative, but it started with just the acoustic guitar and words, and then we would transpose that into electronic alt, more pop rock sound.
What state is your band based out of?
We are based out of Los Angeles, California. That's where we all live right now. Like I said, we moved here to make it. We've been talking, throwing around the idea of maybe moving to Nashville one day, or at least I have. I know Will, loves the Rocky Mountains. He wants to end up in Colorado at some point or someplace like that. But we're waiting until we can do that, right? Bands like All Time Low, they don't live all in the same state. But they can do that because they're on that level. We're not there yet. Like we have to be able to be within driving distance of each other because we don't have millions of dollars, right? Just to put it that simply. So once we get there, I'm sure we'll be more spread out and be more where we want to be. But right now, like we're so dedicated to this. This is all we want to do. We don't have a back. Everybody's like, "What's your back?" There is no backup plan. We're just gonna keep moving forward. And every time somebody thinks we've hit a wall, we push forward. Right? People thought that last year when we had like 200,000 plays on Girl in Blue, like, oh, they've peaked. No, now we're at 3 million, right? And the next year we'll be at 10 million, right? So on and so forth. We'll just keep going because when you don't allow yourself an out, the only option is forward. You hear all these people talk about, well, what if this, what if that? And I'm like, well, if you give yourself that fallback, then you don't work as hard. You get more frustrated. You become more jaded, become more bitter, and then yeah, you really do, end up leaving it. And I've met so many people, even in Charlottesville, that had moved from LA that were like crap, shitting on it and talking all this crap about how it doesn't work, whatever. And I'm like, like that's because in your mind you had a fallback plan. Like you were always thinking, well, what if this doesn't happen? I don't think like that. I get frustrated and I'm like, screw this. I hate all these gatekeepers. I hate all these, people that have all this money that just were handed it to them because they were rich or knew someone. I don't think like what if, I think what next.
Where can we get a hold of you guys? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram?
Instagram and TikTok is where we post most of like our stuff. I mean, Facebook's good. So we post everything goes on every platform. So whatever we post on TikTok is going to go on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. You know, we post a lot of studio leaks. We've already finished the first single for the next album. We've got the artwork done. We've got the song done. We've got 9 more tracks to make. We're going on tour. We got recently scouted for this new NBC show. If we do pass the final executives like stamp of approval, then we won't be able to put out the song until February. But if we don't get selected, then we're going to drop it in November. I kind of don't care either way. It'd be cool to be on national television, but at the same time, like I don't want to make the fans wait. We're not here to be, One Direction on TV. We're here to make music. We're here to be the next Killers. So whichever way it goes is the way it's meant to be, and we'll just keep pushing until we get there. No other option. Not what if, what next. I'm gonna coin that. I'm gonna put that on a shirt. I just came up with that today. I really like that. It's not what if, it's what's next.
That's all the questions I have for you. Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah. So our social media handles are animal_sun. It's Instagram. TikTok, it's at Animal Sun. Twitter, it's at Animal Sun. Facebook, it's facebook.com/Animal Sun. Sun is SUN. And follow us on Spotify, man. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your tunes, wherever you listen to music, it's there. And it's probably on your Tumblr page somewhere. People have made like weird fan things of Grow and Blue. It's probably there. So we hope to see you guys at a concert. Anyone listening to this podcast or listening to this episode, please come out to the tour. We'd love to see you guys. We're coming to almost every single major city except New York.
You say you're missing home and you feel the fear. Been climbing from the ground for years, getting closer every day. It won't take much for you to say it's on my mind to set you free. Heart's beating, body's getting closer. Straight down emotion taking over. I wanna be the one to make you come to life. When we touch, we're gonna